Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Soul Food Books tonight. It seems to be, and I don't want to speak too soon, but like it stopped raining. It's kind of nice. Now, it's important that nobody goes out and washes their car because that's going to be surefire sign it'll start raining again. So if we don't kind of make that deal. As we've been settling into rain, April showers, seems like spring is still blooming around us. And tonight's a special night. This place was built to have a place in the neighborhood for expression of art, what that meant, and what it meant to inspire other people in the neighborhood and to hear the stories of those who do the art. Art is why we live, work is how we live. It's the makeup of all of us doing our art, beautifying the surroundings that make us the neighborhood that we are. Tonight, when the artist who's on the wall came in to the store and I first met him, I knew I was talking to a one of a kind, and it gives me great privilege to finally have his artwork up on the wall. I'd like to bring him up to the stage to talk to us a little bit about the stories that went behind this art and introduce himself to you guys. Please welcome Mr. Mark Clark. Welcome. Hey.
Hello, everybody. All of you here, if you're engrossed in your computer, tapping away at it, should take a little break, maybe for at least 10 minutes. And come on over here, walk this way, and come check out this artwork. It's really an unusual artwork. I guarantee you that if you look at it, you'll realize you've never seen artwork like it before. I promise you. So come on over. We're invited. You can come have some popcorn, some brownies, and come take a look at this artwork. It's really good stuff. This artwork, I've been working on it for, at least I've been doing this type of artwork for about 15 years now, even though I've been an artist since I was in kindergarten. And I think I was 15 years old when the style of artwork that I now have, that you see here that I've developed, started when I was about 15 years old. And of course, as a teenager and in my 20s or whatever, my life, my priorities were way different than it is now because it was all about girls and parties and all of that. So I got really sidetracked by other stuff that didn't allow me to do artwork like I should have been doing. And so eventually, though, I got to a point where I thought that I got to get serious with my art, and I got to stop creating art just to sell it to people for portraits or greeting cards or stuff like that. And I needed to get serious with it, and so I started doing more serious artwork, which also fell in line with my getting into science and trying to figure out what life was all about, where it came from, all the questions about us as human beings and why are we on this planet and why is this one particular planet seem so special amongst all the other ones that don't have life on it. And so I started getting into philosophy and science and stuff. And if you look at the artwork, you will see great intensity as far as what's in the picture themselves. It tells a significant story. If you look at the pictures, you will find that you'll get lost in it. You will not be able to look at the picture twice and see the same thing. I mean, you can look at it 10 times and you won't be able to see the same thing. That's the first time you saw it. And as I was developing this particular style of artwork, this particular style of artwork that is on the walls is also a direct result of my research into science and my search for the questions that almost every human being asks is, why are we here? And so I developed a particular philosophy, which this artwork does reflect. And it was about 14 years ago or so that I wrote an essay. And I was really surprised that I was able to write this the way it was, and when I let people read it, that they liked it. So I'm going to read you one of the first things that I wrote. It's called The Law of Awareness. And this is what I wrote. All life in the universe's mechanism, all life is the universe's mechanism for self-awareness, to be able to look upon itself from the inside out. It is the purpose behind intelligence. The universe invented life, life invented evolution, evolution invented intelligence. Intelligence is the purpose for our existence. Our existence is the universe's way of looking at and admiring its own beauty, for it is impossible to look upon yourself when your size is infinite. The need for self-awareness within the universe can be found whenever we pass a mirror. We can't help but look at our reflection whenever we pass one. Oh, sometimes we can pass without actually looking when we see a mirror, as our modesty sometimes keeps us from doing so. But the need to, the wanting to, is always there. We feel as though we had missed something when we don't look. Such feelings are remnants, traces behind a force that is as powerful and is as much a part of the makeup of the universe as gravity is. Just like the law of gravity, the self-awareness need force can't be seen, held, touched, smelled, or tasted, but we can feel its effects on our everyday lives, much the same way we can feel gravity keeping us from floating out into the vastness of space. Unlike gravity, the cosmic force of the self-awareness need is a true connection between our individual being and the infinity of the cosmos. Gravity is a force that causes the universe to go through its constant state of change, but the self-awareness need force is the universe itself. It is the elements in the cosmos that makes the accumulation of mass possible, which is where gravity comes from. The elements are in turn put through changes by the gravity they create, and it is the changes the elements go through that create the stuff we are made of. Gravity creates stars, stars explode and create new elements, which become us through the process of evolution. We are all made up of star matter. It is star matter in our biology, our chemical makeup, that makes self-awareness possible. We are the universe turned outside in so that it may look upon itself from the inside out. Our organic biological being is the bridge that brings together the infinite inner space of our minds and the outer space of the cosmos from which we are minds derived from through the process of evolution, which was fueled by the law of the self-awareness need force. It is that self-awareness need force that is the life force of God, nature, who is the inventor of evolution, the perfect living machine. And thus the evolution of life is not fueled by accidental forces. It is a product of a law or property, like the law of gravity, that dictates that life will animate from a scattered state of dormancy whenever and wherever conditions are right. And that is the essence of why evolution is the perfect living machine. Evolution is not just a theory. Evolution is, beyond a shadow of a doubt, a scientific fact. One does not believe in evolution. You either understand it or you don't. And to understand the process of evolution is to understand the true nature of God. And to understand God's process of evolution is to understand the perfection of the chaos order of the universe. And so, because of the perfection of the self-awareness need force, life can never be truly snuffed out. And I was hoping my friend Stephanie would read a part out of this book for me. This is my friend Stephanie Upton. I met her about a year ago. She was a tour guide at another art show at the Seattle Erotic Art Festival and the Fremont Fair. Yep. And I asked her, what was your favorite piece at the art show? And she said, well, I'll show it to you. So we walked over in front of this picture, and she goes, this one, I like this one. And we started talking about it. And about 10 minutes later, a guy comes up from behind us and says, oh, isn't that yours?
That wasn't how it happened, but it was close.
It was close.
I tell the story better. If you want to hang around after the show, I'll tell it my way.
This one's called, this was written in homage to Carl Sagan, and he wrote a book with Anne Druyan called The Shadows of Our Forgotten Ancestors.
Okay. Just wondering if it was based on that. Okay. All right. The Shadows of Our Forgotten Ancestors. When it comes to dealing with evolution, the faithful are like orphaned children raised in a privileged, wealthy, handsome home who are later told that their parents are poor ignorant, ugly people, and then are unwilling to accept it. Our ancestors have left undeniable shadows of their existence in order to remind their greatest grandchildren where they came from. Shadows both by accident and design, for example, fossils and monuments. And it is the fossilized shadows of our ancestors' remains that is the cause of the faithful's greatest discomfort. The so-called missing link is missing no more. When Darwin speculated that there must be traces of our primitive ancestors, I doubt he could have imagined that his prediction would come true to the degree that it has so far to date. Australopithecus afarensis, which appeared 3.5 million years ago, followed by Australopithecus africanus, Australopithecus robustus, Australopithecus boisei, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Neanderthal, Cro-Magnon. These are all bipedal hominid species that without a doubt existed. Two of them existed side by side with modern man for thousands of years before they became extinct, those being the Homo erectus and the Neanderthals, with Cro-Magnon being the earliest humans. According to a recent experiment in which a microscopic strand of ancient DNA taken from the arm bone of a Neanderthal skeleton, the Neanderthals and our most direct ancestors split off from a common ancestor about 55,000 years ago. So, between the time the Neanderthals and our most direct ancestors split off from a common ancestor to the time Homo sapiens entered the picture, about 150,000 years ago, there is a 4,000-year gap where fossilized remains of our most direct ancestors have yet to be found. But we have only been looking for the shadows of our ancestors since the 1890s, with the most important discoveries being made since 1974. Lucy, Australopithecus afarensis, was discovered by Donald Johnson in 1974. As time goes by and more ground is covered, or uncovered as the case may be, more bipedal hominid species will be found to fill the ever-narrowing gaps with our 30-million-year-old primate bloodline that has separated our 150,000-year-old human ancestral heritage from our life force's 3.5 billion-year-old history. We belong to a life force whose unbroken chain of DNA began its changing journey 3.5 billion years ago. On my next birthday, I will turn 3.5 billion plus 39 years old. Every single living thing that exists today belongs to that 3.5 billion year old life force, with each multicellular creature's DNA strand branching off from a single microbial origin. If Darwin had lived long enough to see the discovery of DNA, he could have gone to his deathbed in peace, knowing that his discovery of evolution was absolutely valid, instead of having doubts about his life's work. And our life force's 3.5 billion year journey is so absolutely astonishing, miraculous, and seemingly impossible that if it weren't for the fossilized shadows that our direct and indirect ancestors left for us to find, it never could have been conceived of, even by the most imaginative minds. However, the shadows were there for us to find, and if Darwin had not stumbled upon the clues of evolution that nature had put before us first, someone else would have eventually. Our evolutionary journey is so beautifully awesome and naturally poetic. It is literally one of the most shameful things that the religious community has, and probably always will, disclaim the facts of evolution through the premeditated practice of disinformation and outright deceit. We can only go back maybe 12,000 years into man's recorded history. There is another 138,000 years of modern human history that our human ancestors had to struggle through to get to the point where civilization would be possible. And before that, another 3.5 million years of struggling that our bipedal hominid ancestors had to endure naked to the elements in nature and carnivorous predators. Yet, the relentless will to survive and to protect and raise their children overcame these impossible obstacles. And they persevered so that their greatest grandchildren could become the intelligent beings that we are today. And for that alone, we should not be ashamed of what our pre-Homo sapien ancestors may have looked like according to our standards of beauty. They should not be forgotten.
One of the I won't read this whole thing. I was going to read it, but basically, what I was going to say was we all look up at the sky and see the stars and wonder what they are. And so each one of us is born a scientist for that very reason, because there isn't a single human being on the face of the earth that didn't look up at the sky and wonder what those stars were when they were children. And so obviously, you can't just look at a white dot and determine what that is. And so we rely on our scientists to do research and to make observations and to build instruments that would make us take a closer look at these stars that are up there. And so for the last 100 years or so, and especially the last 30 years, our scientists have been doing this incredible job where the story of our universe can be told from 1/billionth of a second after the Big Bang to present. And that story can be told with incredible accuracy, with almost no major gaps in that story. They can tell you exactly, minute by minute, hour by hour, a million years by a million years, billion years by billion years, exactly what happened and to get us where we're at. And it's an incredible story, and it's incredible that our scientists are able to tell the story with the accuracy that they can. And so I always encourage people, try to understand your universe. Try to understand what it actually is. And so that is the inspiration that I have injected into my artwork in trying to tell that story. It was like 15 years ago that I started making these incredibly detailed drawings that I decided that I needed to do at least one piece that reflected my desire for every human being on the face of the earth to know the true story of our origins and why we're here and how we got here. And also, during that journey of learning myself about what scientists have discovered about our universe, is how human beings have been struggling with accepting that reality of what it is, a reality. And so part of that whole human struggle thing is the religious thing. The Buddhists and the Christians and Muslims and every other religion on the face of the earth, almost all of them don't recognize evolution as a reality. And so I started a piece over 10 years ago. I think it's been 12 years ago that I started it. And the piece came out to be what we see here on this wall here, of a girl holding a serpent. And the drawing is called A Garden for Darwin's Daughter. And when I wanted people to look at the picture and think of Eve, because the girl in front of the tree is holding a serpent, and she wears a necklace with an apple with a bite taken out of it. And I thought it was one of the most incredible stories that I've ever heard of was the story of Eve, where she is seduced by the serpent and to take a bite of the apple from the tree of knowledge. And all hell broke loose from there, and human beings have been living in a life of sin ever since, or whatnot. And I just thought, well, how can that be a sin for human beings to be intelligent and to be curious and to want to be and to want to gain knowledge about the universe around them that the God created for them. So I wanted to tell that story, but at the same time, I wanted to tell the story between the conflict of the story of the theory of evolution, which is basically a theorem of evolution today, and the story about how people cling onto religious beliefs. And also, I wanted to tell a little story about Darwin. And so Darwin had several daughters, but his youngest daughter died of a disease of some sort, of virus, a stomach virus or something like that. And it dented his faith in God, and he was a faithful Christian back then. And so I imagined, I asked the question, well, if Darwin loved his daughter as much as he did, and he believed that she went to heaven, and then Darwin observes this situation going on in nature that he called evolution, I asked myself, well, how would Darwin imagine a heaven for his daughter? And so that's what the inspiration of the drawing was, and that's why I call it A Garden for Darwin's Daughter. And so this is the heaven that I think that Darwin would have imagined for his daughter. And so I invite you all to come and take a look at it. And I'll talk a little bit more about it if you come.
the art will be up for the next week, and so definitely go up and check it out. You have to get very close to see how much of the story's in there. We're going to take the next few minutes and do get some coffee and some tea and do a sound check to get ready for Songwriters in Seattle tonight. And so another round of applause for the artist tonight.